This is the Boys Gen V podcast on TV Podcast Industries, and we're talking about Gen V Season 1, Episode 7, Sick.
You all leave a path of destruction behind you. You have ruined countless lives. Just look at what you did to your parents. You can't help it. It's your species.
Tell them what your last assignment was for me.
Kill everybody in the woods.
Jesus Christ, did you?
Of course not, Jordan. I'm trying to show you what kind of a monster she is. She wants to wipe us off the face of the earth. They all do. So we have to strike first. Starting with her.
Welcome back, Generation Vers. Welcome back, alumni. Welcome back, TV Podcast Industry folks. Yes, this is TV Podcast Industries, and we're covering the boys, Gen V. Yes, we're talking about Gen V Season 1, Episode 7, Sick. And it's the penultimate episode. Oh yes, we're here to kill a species and some students and have some fun along the way. I am one of your hosts, joining you for this penultimate episode, Chris.
I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
Hello there, fellow boys and girls. Yes, I'm one of your other hosts, John. Sorry, I'm slightly, because you almost did one of my favourite Star Wars in General Veers when you went, well, hello, Gen Vers. It was very close.
General Veers, yes.
Yes. I thought I'd come in for this end. You guys have been doing such a spectacular job covering Gen V without me. I had to get in
glory
right at
seeker.
the end to go, oh, hold on, wait. I seen how great it is. I am a fair weather fan. No.
Mm-hmm.
I am a long-term fan of the boys, as any of our previous industrialists or any of our listeners know who from our coverage of all the boys. I've read every issue that there is of the comic book, including the new Dear Becky, which is very good.
Excellent.
But then also I've been watching this along, and just unfortunately due to my own generation, what is he? I have a son. Yeah. He's new. He's in whatever the latest generation. He was born 5 months ago. I have not been. My time is a bit covered, and when it comes in spit coverage. It comes in diaper coverage and screaming baby coverage. So I slot in to your timetable as much as possible, and that allows me to come onto this glory-seeking penultimate episode.
Absolutely, and it's always good to have you back, Chris. We did mention during the season that you are the one that brought the boys to us. We didn't even know about the boys for the first season, and it is now the biggest show in TV podcast industries, the biggest downloads by a factor of about 3 on our podcast, which is great.
Absolutely. Thank you, fellow boys and girls. Really good to get your support and listenership.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And we also got a review of the Gen V podcast over on Apple Podcasts. Panuski over on Apple Podcasts in the US says, I love the contrast of how raunchy and gross the show is and how sweet and funny the hosts are. How nice is that?
They really are sweet and funny. I bring the raunchy and gross. So now you're going to get everything.
I kind of bring a bit of that as well.
Yeah.
And also, actually, Chris, we have a new Basil exposition. It is Cardosa exposition.
Yes.
Given what he was doing in Shetty's office, it was like, okay, just speak to yourself like a crazy man.
Yeah, that is genuinely, that is one of the worst things I have seen in any of the boys' shows. In fact, any of the shows on Prime Video, every show on Prime Video, nobody stoops to someone walks into a room and gives a massive piece of exposition talking to themselves. Oh, sure, he was drinking. He had a bit of whiskey. So that's why he was talking out loud to himself about a major plot point. Pretty terrible, but it didn't affect my enjoyment of the episode.
No, but speaking of drinking, we are doing some celebrations this weekend. Yes, this week was the birthday of one of our hosts. Oh yes, he will be getting drunk this weekend. It is not myself. It is not Derek. Yes, it can be the one and only John.
Yes.
Happy birthday, sir.
Thank you very much. Yes. I am Generation Old, Gen O.
No, I think it's ow.
Yeah.
Yes, it's
I'm
ow.
Generation Ooh, my hip. I'm not that old. I'm not that old. Mid-40s.
Yes. Mid-40s, like I'm 102.
Well, you look 102, even though you're not.
Thanks. It's the grey. I swear I have more grey than you do.
I don't think that's possible.
Not at all. I'm
Great
practically ready to start my mole Santa career at Christmas with the amount of white I've got.
Unfortunately, with no facial hair, that wouldn't work for mole Santa. Yes, happy birthday, John. Again, we've been celebrating all week, and we are going out of the weekend to properly celebrate with other people. We've been doing enough celebration on our own.
Just by yourselves.
Exactly.
But yes, before we move on to our spoiler-filled discussion of this episode of Gen V, episode 7, Sick, a little announcement. Yes, it is our campus announcement, fellow boys and girls. Just as a reminder, you should head on over to our website at tvpodcastindustries.com, where you can subscribe to any good or evil podcast player of your choice. You can also leave a voicemail over on the website as well for feedback if you want to get involved with our feedback section. Of course, you can send emails to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com or pop on over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries, where you can leave any thoughts, observations, theories, comments, whatever you would like, apart from anything rude, on our spoiler-filled posts for each and every episode of Gen V.
You can leave rude things. Just don't get yourself banned from Facebook. That's never fun. And just as a reminder, we are continuing our Gen V student bar quiz with the 7th question available later on in the episode. Gather together all 8 answers to the pub quiz at the end of the season and email them to us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com to be able the chance of getting your hands on some Gen V goodies. All questions so far are available over on tvpodcastindustries.com. We will be having our big wrap-up episode. It's kind of sort of going to be our 800th episode. I think we've actually passed 800 episodes already, but it will be our 800th episode celebration when we go through our 4 pub quizzes and give out loads and loads of goodies.
Excellent stuff.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yes. I'm much like a student that comes home and asks you to do the washing and a bit of cash for some drink. Why not think about supporting our podcasts by helping us with our laundry fund by heading on over to patreon.com/tvpodcastindustries and considering giving us a monthly stipend towards our laundry and beer, or head on over to buymeacoffee.com/tvpi where you can buy us a coffee and just keep us going in our late night study sessions.
Editing.
But,
yes.
And of course, you can always subscribe and share the podcast, because sharing the podcast is what?
Sharing the love.
Sharing the love.
Exactly.
And usually that causes an STD in
It
campus.
does, yes.
But not on the virtual sharing of the podcast.
Yes, and as long as you're wearing protection as well.
Well, as we say, it is TV Podcast Industries. It is the Gen V podcast coming in your ears.
Exactly.
With all that said and done, speaking of the Gen V podcast, gentlemen, should we jump into our discussion of this? So, with all that, Derek, do you want to tell us who gave us what, where, when, and how with the episode details?
Absolutely. The show, of course, is developed by Craig Rosenberg, Evan Goldberg, and Eric Kripke. The showrunners for the show are Michelle Fasakis and Tara Butters, of course, based on the comic book series by Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson. Executive producers for the show include Eric Kripke, Seth Rogen, and Evan Goldberg. This episode was written by Chelsea Great, an executive story editor on the show, and was also a writer on the TV show For the People. This episode was directed by Shauna Stein. She has directed episodes of Power and will direct Season 4, Episode 5 of The Boys. You will also see her in a scene in Kill Bill Volume 2. She's one of the bride's friends. So,
very good.
Yeah, you'll see her in there. Very quick scene, but that's a little claim to fame. That always appears in her biography.
Very good.
Very well written. Very well directed. This episode, I must say, there was some very cool stuff in here. John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for The Boys, Gen V, Episode 7, Sick?
Sure. I think you should call me Exposition John from now on.
So.
While Dean Shetty is with Dr. Cardosa in the woods to observe his latest developments to the virus on the imprisoned Supes, she receives a call from Cate, who wants to meet her. But Shetty, unaware of the plans being made by Cate, Marie, Jordan and Andre, can only meet later due to an important meeting in the city. However, Jordan is still suspicious of Cate and her newfound mind-reading abilities, and persuades Marie to try another route to expose Dean Shetty. They break into her office, where they learn Shetty's family was killed in the plane crash of Transoceanic Flight 47, caused by Homelander, and also overhear Dr. Cardosa rambling about the virus that will kill all Supes. They bring their evidence and present it to Victoria Neuman, a politician on the vice presidential trail who is at Godolkin University for a town hall meeting. Meanwhile, Dean Shetty's meeting in the city is with one Colonel Grace Mallory in a back alley downtown. Shetty needs her help to hide the development of the virus from Vought and to enable its transmission globally to kill all Supes. But Colonel Mallory refuses the offer. As Shetty departs, Mallory secretly orders someone to observe her. While Cate and Andre wait for Dean Shetty to return, they see a TV interview with Andre's father, Polarity, and it becomes increasingly apparent to Cate that the two have become estranged. But Polarity suffers a seizure mid-interview. Andre rushes to his father in time and joins him as he is evacuated to the hospital. Elsewhere, Senator Neuman is trying to garner support for her campaign at the town hall meeting, but Supes student protesters led by Rufus incite a riot in the lecture theatre, chanting "Supe Lives Matter." Sam gets caught up in the situation and seemingly is sympathetic to the possibility of a future where Supes are better than humans. While evacuating, Victoria Neuman meets Marie and discovers they share similar powers and upbringings. Marie tries to convince Neuman to help her expose the woods to Vought, but Neuman tells her to focus on one path, convincing her that she will handle it, and for Marie to pursue her dream to become the first black female member of the Seven, where she will have real power and influence instead. After learning that Dean Shetty does love her, Cate forces Shetty to reveal the truth behind the woods and her motivation for creating the virus. Despite her motherly love, Cate forces her to slit her own throat and controls Marie to prevent her from keeping Shetty alive. Following the information from Marie, Senator Neuman secretly meets Dr. Cardosa. He gives her a virus sample before she kills him, exploding his head to stop his knowledge from spreading, but sadly not his brains. A true American hero.
Ah, head popping. Would it be The Boys if there wasn't head popping?
Absolutely. I was really trying not to watch that. I just was like, when is the exploding heads going to happen?
John literally walked out of the room to get himself some coffee to try and avoid it. So I paused the TV before the popping, and it came up on screen going, "The yeah, heads will roll." Is the music playing here? I was like, okay, well, I guess his head's going to pop any second now. So spoilers caused by John.
Oh, it was such a good scene.
Yeah.
Such a good scene. But gentlemen, we have so many scenes to talk about.
do.
So should we jump into our moments for this episode?
Absolutely. Let's start off with our freshman moment, or our small moment, minor moment from the episode, where we always start off. Are there any small moments in this episode? I think we're going to start with one anyway, which is the radicalization of Sam. This really comes about as Sam's left behind after being brought back by Emma. Emma seems to have gotten the whole story of what Sam's been doing. She learns all about his puppet slaughter and the fact that he ripped a human in half, but it looked like a puppet at the time, so that's fine. And Emma goes off to incinerate his clothes, thereby wiping out all of the evidence that he is effectively a mass murderer. And leaving him alone with the rest of the characters of Godolkin University who take him out to party.
He doesn't listen to Emma. I mean, she effectively says, "Stranger danger, stay inside," of which he does stay inside, and then inside again by crawling into the cupboard or the wardrobe of Emma. But obviously he's getting pretty bored. I do like the kind of finger puppetry with the miniature knickers. It kind of reminded me of, there was a British TV show when I was growing up, high levels of production called Finger Mouse, which was finger this was finger puppets.
And all flashback to all the UK people from the UK. Yeah.
And because of the nature of the show, I just thought of another rodent as well and thought, oh, it's like Finger Beaver.
Look, a woman likes to have options, be it in her toys or her underwear, because she shrinks. I loved it. Except the one I was really waiting to see was like the giant-sized version. He's like
absolutely.
Open and open. It was like the envelope that just opens up for a mile.
The granny, grandpa-sized knickers. They're massive.
That actually are giant now.
Yeah. It's pretty good, but actually, logically, doesn't that make sense? Because the only time she's ever grown big, she was told by her mom not to do it, and then she grew big this season, right? So she's only ever done it twice in her life. So, so I like that they kept that consistent. But yeah, she should have the drawer below is just one pair of underwear.
We don't go in that drawer.
Exactly.
But yeah,
this was fun. He's the wide-eyed deer in headlights kid.
Yeah.
That's just like, welcome to alcohol, welcome to drugs, welcome to skating down your hallway.
Exactly.
On cardboard on your knees. And I was like, oh, that's going to hurt.
That's it.
Sure.
He's kind of
You're
like
such an old man, Chris. You're complaining about John being an old man. Oh, it's going to hurt sliding down the hallway.
He's kind of like a sponge, isn't he? He's just absorbing all these new experiences because he's been locked up. And yet, unfortunately, he bumps into Rufus, who's effectively got this world's version of a MAGA cap on.
Yes.
And kind of absorbs all the radicalization that's happening at Newman's town hall event that doesn't go so well. So yeah, it's just these moments, and you hear it later in Sam where it's like, with the death of Shetty, it's like, no, that's justice. Or you see those side glances from Emma when he says something like, what are you saying here?
We're better than humans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you can sense it's kind of infiltrated into his mind. And, it almost makes sense, really, given he's been locked up by them and has been tortured by them, has been denied his rights and all of that. This is something that you can sense he would be sympathetic to. It's like, ooh, interesting, because he's massively superpowered.
Exactly. It does feel like they're creating a version or an origin story for Gen V's version of Homelander.
Yeah.
They are. They're trying to probably... Yeah, no, that would actually be very apt because much like Homelander, he has mental health issues. He has a very fractured childhood. Although he's still technically going through some of it. And yeah, there is also unlike Homelander, there is a love interest who I see they'll try and play with that. Emma's like, no, come back to the light side. You can be good. And I very much feel by the end of this season, like, I believe as you guys announced last episode, we are getting a season 2. Now, it might take a bit more, probably a year, 2 years to film and put out, but I can see this being the X-Men versus the Brotherhood of Mutants, using a comics reference, like two groups of superheroes that were friends now at odds against each other. The light versus the dark, or in this case, very much the Homelanders versus the boys.
Yeah.
They're building up their variations of that, but with superpowers.
Absolutely. And it makes so much sense the way that it all plays out. We have Senator Neuman here, well known to us as a character from the boys, played a big role in season 3 and a big role in season 2.
Yeah.
So we know that she's a Supe. But she's here on site, going through this speech, trying to get people to get on her side, trying to get these kids who are Supes to get on her side for her race to be vice president of the US. They're having none of it. And Sam's sitting in this crowd, hearing all these people chanting around him, going, Supes' lives matter. So it makes loads of sense that this would happen to Sam, that he'd be taken in by this kind of group, given that he's a very childlike mind and that he absorbs this stuff like a sponge and spits it back out almost verbatim, that, well, I guess I'll follow this cause of Supes' lives matters and we're better than everybody else and humans should suffer, because that's the childlike mind that he has.
Well, that's it. But it's also, you hear someone shout, humans aren't our peers, but the chant that they're doing is, you will not control us. You will not control us. And
Rufus,
it's the real interesting thing. You see him with his red Keep America Safe cap on. And it is that same thing. I really like the parallels here. It's, the audience is pro Supes, but they feel like they're being targeted and have no power. Literally the most powerful individuals believe or are being persuaded that they have no power, that they're being targeted. Now, okay, they are to some extent in the woods for sure by Vought, but
they don't know anything about that. Though,
but they don't know anything about that.
It's Cameron Coleman again inciting these people, just like any Fox News presenter incites people like this in the real world. He's calling out that they are the most persecuted minority in America, is the way that he describes this group of Supes in the room. He is surrounded by an entire college room full of Supes who don't even know that Neuman is a Supe herself, does have compound V running through her veins, which she can't reveal to them, but she's trying to get them on her side. And again, the weak-willed amongst them all, led by, let's say it, the dickless wonder that is Rufus, leading them with his MAGA cap on, his Keep America Safe cap on. It makes sense. This is the parody that comes from the Gen V world, right?
Yeah, exactly. So really good. And flowing through from the boys as well, that conversation, that parody of what's going on in contemporary America.
Exactly.
One kind of piece that I'll pull, just because we talked about Neuman and this, is post this conference. One thing we did find, which is really interesting to find out going into the next season of The Boys, where we'll see Neuman again, is she has the same powers as Marie.
Yeah, do anybody else feel like an idiot for not recognizing that? Because I do.
Oh, yeah, I did, because we've only ever seen her explode heads.
Yeah, well, I don't think I was stupid. I think as soon as she came on screen, I was like, this is the benefactor. So I kind of, as soon as she arrived in the show, I was like, oh, that's the benefactor.
I saw the trailer last week that she was going to be on the show and went, oh, of course, that's the benefactor. Makes sense.
That was the question that was answered and seemed obvious. But I don't know whether you should beat yourself up about not noticing that the powers are the same, because all we've ever seen is her eyes go cloudy and her explode heads. It didn't necessarily suggest that, like she showed to Marie, where she cuts her own palm, and can control her blood. Yeah.
It's what we
never felt like that, but that is exactly how it is. And I loved how she was saying to Marie when they were sort of in the green room together, you can do more. The powers that you have are the coolest I've ever seen, but you can do more. You can sense things in blood. So tell me something about me. And I that scene was really good. And then just the reveal that she has the same powers and can empathize and understand her upbringing, because she also went through Red River, these institutes. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. I really liked it. And as we talked about earlier on in the season, the interesting thing about Marie's powers are she trained herself to use the blood the way that she uses it, turning it into whips and turning it into things to lasso people. But with some actual training at this college, she could have been trained as a medic to stop people from bleeding out, which she did on her own once. Here we have Neuman telling her that she can read what's going on in the blood. She was able to find the tracer that was inside her own blood using her powers, using her skills. But she's had nobody else to train her, so she created this idea that she was going to be a crime stopper using her blood to wrap people up effectively. So it's really interesting just taking it from that perspective, that this is a real Supe training school. Can you imagine what they could have discovered among all the students, what they could actually do for good with their powers, yet they've unleashed them to do whatever they want to, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, and this does bring in some interesting bits for the next season of The Boys as well, because now we know what Neuman can do. Outside of just exploding heads, she becomes more powerful, even more than just kind of eyes roll back, turn white. She can sense things about the other people. She'll be able to sense things about Huey and we know that at some point that we know Huey has powers to a degree, and so does Butcher. So again, we get to see this play off more, and I thought it was nice. It ties it even further together, these two stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I got two quick things about this point, if that's all right.
Let's do
Number
it.
one, Polarity was supposed to hold this conference, right? He was the one that was supposed to be leading this town hall. Andre's father. He has a seizure and has to be taken off to hospital, so Cameron Coleman has to step in here. Was that planned, do you think? That Cameron Coleman did something to push him into a some kind of seizure so that he could take over? Because it feels like Cameron Coleman, as he always does, is inciting the group against her. So I wondered, was that a choice? Was there some kind of push on Polarity that made him have a seizure? Because we haven't seen anything like that from him before, other than he's old and wants Andre to take over from him.
No, we didn't. And I actually was thinking it was some kind of leak of the virus, and this was some kind of first step of it.
Interesting.
And that's what I was thinking. But then you see in the ambulance him having another seizure, which I thought the effects on it were really, really cool. And seeing Andre sort of trying to sort of combat and reverse those effects that his father is doing subconsciously. So
I was literally saying, slam on the brakes, save that poor medic's life before she gets destroyed by all the stuff flying around inside. That was really cool. So that's one question I had from that. The other one I had, Rufus, who is the one that invites Sam along to this great party, the town hall speech that's being given. He does grab Sam by the hand, and we know that he's able to coerce people into doing anything he wants them to do. So do you think his influence may have had some hold over Sam?
possibly, yeah.
I wonder if that's part of the reason why he's so receptive to everything else that's going on. We said it's partly to do with his childish mind, and he's been locked up since he's been 10 years old, and these kind of things do go towards childish minds, taking on these ideas. But I wonder if there's an additional element of Rufus's persuasion there. We haven't seen him use his powers for anything other than
but he's also sat next to Rufus as well, and Rufus was pleading that he can only do these changes when he's very close to them. So he is right next to Sam during the town hall. Yeah. So absolutely he could be doing it.
Maybe. Yep. Just thought it was interesting. Those two questions that I have anyway coming out of that.
No, yeah, I do like that question, the final bit, because I think there's a potential that Rufus is used to incite kind of people towards this keep Supes safe kind of movement in colleges. He's like, there's people like him kind of going into these discussions where they'll like amp people's emotions up and kind of just leverage it a bit.
'Cause he's the only one wearing the cap as well.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as we said before, he's played by one of the major actors from the last couple of seasons of Supernatural. So yeah, a very important actor to Eric Kripke. So bringing him on board here makes sense that he'd have a really big role as the season rolls on. Good stuff. I think that's it for our freshman moment.
Yeah.
I think so. Let's move on to our sophomore moment for this episode. Who wants to kick us off?
Well, just like Chris returning to the podcast, as he hasn't been back since The Boys Season 3, we have the return of Colonel Mallory in this episode.
Yeah. That was really good. I liked that. That was a surprise for me, actually. When you hear Dean Shetty on the phone to Cate saying, I can't actually meet just now. I've got an important meeting in the city. You kind of think it's with Vought, as you would.
Yeah.
But I like then that you have her meeting Grace Mallory. And I just liked how it played out with the other moments with Marie and Jordan in her office finding the file on Transoceanic Flight 47, from which was the plane that crashed from season 1 at the hands of Homelander. And the setup of the motivations that, her husband and her kid are on the roster of dead people from that flight. I just thought then, having this meeting with Grace Mallory, and you do feel like Mallory would be receptive to this as she's showing her the virus results. But indeed, Mallory sees it as it is, that it's a huge step to have just purely for vengeance, and she makes the reference to Billy Butcher, where that quest for vengeance has just been all consuming.
The Boys Season 3 available now on Prime Video if you want to see the story about that.
Exactly. And, she's skeptical about it, effectively calling it out as genocide. And as she says, talking about Billy Butcher, and this won't bring back your husband or daughter. And I like that Shetty doesn't give up here and says, "Or your grandchildren," and Shetty is of the view that deep down, Mallory does agree with her here. And I think she's probably right, because while she rejects Shetty's offer, it is that she's had the conversation tapped and has someone to follow her.
Who's on the other end of the phone? Who's Mallory talking to?
I kind of feel it would either be Frenchie or Mother's Milk. As one of the guys, as the tech kind of guys in that group, the kind of technical experts in various things. It would be one of them kind of just bugging that conversation.
Yeah, myself, I'm going Huey.
Okay.
Huey was working with Mallory towards the end of the series. He would be the one who would rail against kind of acts of war crimes. His girlfriend, Starlight, is a Supe.
That's true.
Would be affected by this. Now, to be fair, the female, Gumiko, would be also affected. And we don't know what would happen with Huey and Butcher with some of their Supe kind of compound in their system.
Well, their residual temporary compound value that they were taking last season. Yeah, that's true. So loads of interesting possibilities. And of course, Starlight is a member of the boys now. She's left the Seven and is now a member of the team as of the end of season 3 as well. So that would be interesting to see us on the other end of the call. And John, we called it last week. This is what we said would happen at the end of the season, that potentially as they're developing this virus, that'll be given to Billy Butcher and the boys as their weapon against Homelander. So we did call it. We were close.
Shetty didn't quite get the partnership she was hoping for from Mallory. And it's certainly the virus that has been developed is now in the hands of someone else, as we know.
Exactly. But we were close from what it was leading to. There was that big reveal at the beginning of the episode that this is nothing to do with Vought, this whole plan that's going on in the woods, that Shetty has taken it so far away from what Vought would have wanted her to develop that effectively, if Dr. Cardosa reports it, he's going to be the one that will be blamed for creating this genocidal weapon for the Supes. So that is absolutely, this is all Shetty's plan. And she now wants to get into the hands of somebody that can use it to maximum capability.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do have a lot of questions about the Mallory aspect of it, because I do think there is a potential that next episode they'll end with Butcher, Carl Urban, or Jack Quaid Huey coming in with a kind of how they connect the shows even further.
Yeah, official confirmation from Eric Kripke. The end of this season of Gen V will lead directly into the start of The Boys Season 4, and the end of The Boys Season 4 will lead directly into Gen V Season 2. So these are going to be great. Really intertwined.
Perfect.
So yeah.
Because we did just learn in this episode where they talk about Homelander cutting a guy in half, severing a guy in half with his eyes, happened recently enough.
Yeah.
So that was the end of last season of The Boys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where Homelander cut a guy in half in front of a whole crowd.
Yeah.
So we do know that these are kind of spaced quite quickly together. If they are talking about it, we'll say like a month maybe. Yeah. Like a difference. Like it's not huge. So this is starting to get really, really interesting. How they're going to do this.
Yeah, exactly. And interestingly as well, to some degree with Mallory, she calls out it's genocide. And I do think Shetty's right, as I said. But I was surprised Mallory didn't take her up on the offer, because the struggles that she's had, the knowledge that she's had, and certainly given, the intimidation and threat that she had, because she was looking after Homelander's son in the last series of The Boys. So, she knows how dangerous they are.
Absolutely.
So I was a little surprised, but I think it's more of a false play by her to Dean Shetty.
Yeah. Mallory always plays all the angles, and the idea that she would pick this up and go, I'll create genocide and kill every single person who's touched Compound V in the world. Maybe that's what has been created here. We don't know yet. So, but it's very interesting to see how that played out there. But then led into Shetty returning back to her home where Cate was waiting for her. I think they filmed this really well and set this up really well, because you felt like maybe Shetty was getting back through to Cate again, telling her that she loved her, and Cate realizing, because she can now read minds, because she's been allowed that part of her brain back, she can tell that Shetty's actually telling the truth. So interestingly, those pills that effectively Shetty's been giving Cate for the last 8 or 9 years have just been suppressing her ability to read other people's minds so that Shetty can get her plan across, what she really wanted to do. So now Cate is able to read her mind. But I thought it was really well set that you had the two of them together. It did feel like maybe Cate's gone back over to her side.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think the whole lead up before that, it was just really tense. Like, I love Shelley Conn here, who plays Dean Shetty, just the flit of the eyes, as she looks down towards the hand, sees that there's no gloves there. And equally Maddie Phillips, who plays Cate. It was, you didn't get the sense of how this confrontation was going to go. Yeah. And, because Cate is, absolutely pulling out, all the stuff that Shetty has done, her control, her manipulation. And it's just slowly, the superpower of Shetty is she seems to, turn it completely around by sort of talking about how she has found something truly special that in Cate, who she loves and feels as though she's almost like her daughter who she lost. And you kind of see Cate then resting her head on her knee and you're like going, oh, okay. Because then when the text goes out to everyone, you are kind of, oh no, it's a trap.
Yeah.
It is,
Admiral Akbar.
Yeah, it is. It's an Admiral Akbar
It's a trap!
Exactly.
And that's why I think the final scene is also so powerful.
Absolutely. And also coupled with all of the conversations she's had with her friends for this episode, every single one of them suspecting that she's going to turn on them, right?
Yeah.
Every one of them, even within their own thoughts, are saying, don't let her go back there. She's going to turn on us.
Yeah. The great part, actually, just even on with her getting those powers back, was even seeing Jordan, like, which I'm assuming if I go back and we'll see, like Marie calls it out, anytime Jordan wants to be kind of aggressive and his point, they'll turn into the male version of Jordan.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've always liked the fact that when they change between genders, they have a full protection. They can't be hurt by anything at all. I always think that's a really good use of the power as well. That's really, really interesting.
They got a good version of Compound V.
Exactly. But of course, not in the perception of the general American public, and not in the perception of Vought, of course. A gender swapping superhero, not something that's going to be accepted wholeheartedly by the country. But that's what, again, that is the parody in Gen V. So really good. But it all culminates with everybody arriving at Cate's home and Dean Shetty being forced into telling them all what her plan is. And her plan is to kill every Supe on the planet, to take them all out, commit genocide. A war has begun and she's going to end the war by taking out the Supes. Interestingly, and we played the clip at the beginning, what you hear is Cate saying, we have to strike first and she's going to be the first one we will take out. So Cate's almost going, if she wanted to commit genocide on us, we're now going to commit genocide on the humans.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, thank goodness for the light relief of Emma. I did like it where she says, can I get the Spark Notes version of this?
Yep.
Because, I've been babysitting sort of Donald Trump Jr. here in waiting. So, so I thought this was really kind of, I like the light relief that Emma came out with here, just to punctuate this, because it ultimately, as I say, that roll into this from the previous scene between Cate and Shetty, and where you see, Cate is having to convince the others that she still can be trusted, that she's with them. I like in a sense, maybe Shetty's play did work, but Cate still sees through it. And I just like the way she says, I know you love me, but that doesn't stop you being an effing bitch. She's kind of like lost it with her.
Exactly.
Because the plan is she was going to kill me. Whether she fully believes that Shetty was going to take her away somewhere safe where she wouldn't be affected by the virus, who knows? But I love the fact that it's like a daughter turning on her mother here.
Yeah.
And I really thought it, again, just done so well, and seeing the reveal of what Cate tells Shetty to do, but I think importantly, preventing Marie from saving Shetty's life with her blood powers. That was critical.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, for me, the hand out that stops Marie and is literally like touching her hand. So there she's just like, there's no way that she's going to allow her. And you could see then the hats off, like the acting on the scene where like slowly Shetty is bleeding out. And you do have Marie pleading with Cate, just like, and the tears rolling down her face of like, let her kind of save her, because she can do it now. She knows she has that, like, that bit.
Yeah.
And then the flash, it cut with her mother. Like, that was just
it was really good
choice. Yeah. Because it just elevates that kind of scene into even further heartbreak.
Absolutely. And we know that Cate can read her mind because she has her powers back, and Cate is telling Marie, I'm sorry you have to relive this, so she can see exactly what's going through Kate's mind. Where she's going, I can't do this. I can't relive this. Please free me and I will go and save Shetty because I wasn't able to save my mother when this exact same thing happened. So, really, really good, really strong moment in here. But because Marie hasn't saved Shetty here, Shetty, it looks like she's dead. It looks like we had the final death rattle there.
I think so.
There were still questions in my mind because of how big Shetty has been this season. She's been the big bad, really, for these 7 episodes, even though we didn't know it at the beginning. But because of that, there were still questions going through my mind. Was this a plan that was concocted between them? We saw, the mindscape that Cate created for last episode where she brought everybody into her mind. So is this just another mindscape that she created? And then I was going, I don't think so.
I don't think so. But it's a valid point if there is to be a twist on a twist on a twist kind of thing going on here. But it really did look like Shetty was dead. And again, Marie kind of saying, what have you done? And Sam responding, justice. So, this feels like it's going to split the group here. I mean, Andre didn't make it there. He decided to stay with his dad at the hospital despite getting the message through. So, Andre is kind of being separated here from this whole experience that they've had to go through.
Yes.
Marie, Jordan, and Emma are certainly there kind of trying to save Dean Shetty, whilst Sam kind of watches on bug-eyed and sort of, like a psychopath kind of going, ooh, that's amazing.
Blood. Yes. Look at it all. Justice. The ribbon.
And I mean, Cate just effectively extracting her revenge here because of the manipulation. I mean, it's not that I've got sympathy for Dean Shetty, but you do, she's been a great character and you would love to see her become, in this Halloween season, a zombie Shetty.
Maybe. You never know what's going to happen on the show, honestly. One other thing that was revealed, though, in how Shetty talks about the plan is that the school itself, Godolkin University, was set up by Thomas Godolkin to study Supes. They were never there to study. They were there to be studied, which I love. Yeah. We talked about it earlier on in the season that one of the production designers had said the student accommodation that we see, all the rooms that everybody's in, there's shutters on the windows and the doors close and lock from the outside. So even though everybody's running in and out and they're brightly coloured, there's paint posters on the walls, what they all are like are cells. So there is the ability for Godolkin University to lock everybody inside if they ever needed that ability. So it was something in production design that was giving you the idea that this is possibly what the place is being used for. It's used for studying Supes.
Well, absolutely. But
so interesting.
But also more than that Godolkin University has been able to pull the wool over Vort's eyes. Vort promotes the hell out of this.
Yeah.
I think it's the training ground, it's the test bed or the proving ground as to whether you might become part of the 7. At the start of this season, we saw Golden Boy sort of seeing his new uniform. He could possibly replace Homelander eventually. So that's how you feel it is. And all of a sudden, these things coming through that actually Shetty's going further than what Vort is asking for around the woods. And then, yes, this notion that Thomas Godolkin effectively meant that all the Supes were being brought in there so that they could be studied rather than them studying, which was great. Really good.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's written down in the writer's room on the board. They're there to be studied, not to study. That's like the tagline they write on the board, and everybody has to write towards it, but it still landed really well in Shetty's speech here, I thought. Yeah. In a week of massive moments for every episode, should we go on to our senior moment?
Yes, to Noyex Neuman.
Wow, what an obscure reference there, John.
I know. I remember it being one of the first few ads when I moved over to Ireland that was on the radio, was Noyex Neuman.
So a 20-year-old radio ad is your reference to...
Yes, to Senator Neuman.
That's not going to spread far and wide.
I wonder if she does sell bathrooms, tiles, and whatever else they sold.
Bathrooms, doors, floors, and more, John.
That was
it.
Yeah.
You didn't remember that well.
No.
And Chris is looking at us really blankly, so it doesn't even...
he wasn't born then.
It doesn't even
I'm
cross
so
it.
old.
I love it. So I guess our final point is heads will roll in Newman's plan itself. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm still so confused of where Neuman sits in the great Vought versus the boys / kind of the US government, i.e. Mallory. What I was going to say sides, but now I think is a triangle of like, is Neuman actually kind of working for Vought and they're trying to or is she a third party now? Is she her own thing? She is going like rogue. We know she is now a Supe. Yeah. We now know her power set. We know she's going for vice president. Is her kind of her own thing, or is this a Vought plan all along? Is she the super agent, like a super agent for Vought?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because you get the sense there's Vought backing there, and she's happy to take that. But at the same time, I think from the last season of The Boys, there was a moment where she makes a pact with Homelander as well. So I think she might be almost chameleon-like in the sense that, yes, it's also for herself, but she's willing to sort of make those deals along the way. In a sense, a bit like Dean Shetty, you know, and fly under the radar.
Absolutely. And also remember who was the person that brought her up. The person that got her out of Red River was Stan Edgar, who she eventually turned on, who was the leader of Vought. She is massively ambitious, there for the power. And her having this in her back pocket, a possible way to kill any Supe that she comes across. Yeah. This is a massive game changer for a person who was told, you sit back there, Robert Singer is going to become president of the US. You can be the vice president. That's all you're good enough for. And that's the deal that's been made. I think this is her big ace in her deck of cards.
And you get the sense of that ambition when she talks to Marie, where, you know, she says, you've got nothing until you're the first black woman in the Seven, you know, with the phone to the president and all that influence politically, culturally from what Vought brings you. So it's not just laying her own way. You almost get the sense she's trying to think about her legacy, because she really tells Marie in that moment, you know, go back to being a student and focus on this path because you can only choose one. So, you know, she's trying to focus Marie as well, down this road. So absolutely. You get
but that's her benefactor. So again, it's another bit of power that she has, that Neuman has, you know? So, it's an interesting play, and definitely if there's anything going to lead into The Boys season 4, this is what's going to lead into it, right?
Yeah, and also the whole Red River Institute element that, you know, she talks about them having the same powers, but that, you know, they're not the right type of powers. That's, again, another reason why she's probably concealing them. And I kind of like the fact that, you know, we've seen a lot about those Supes that haven't quite fitted the mold through the cartoon series, and also more so in Gen V this time with Marie, you know, saying how her powers aren't going to play well in the Midwest or in Texas, that kind of stuff. And you get the sense that, is her deal with Homelander, because actually within the Supes, it's that fracturing within the Supes as well, but maybe isn't at the surface or anything, but to her, she also wants to take down the golden Supes, the golden boys of the superhero world, because she's the one that's been told, you're nothing, you won't amount to anything. And so she's put in the cover story, changed the files on her record so that she can fly completely under the radar. And, that's why her walking off with that weapon, with the virus, she's probably happy that it's not airborne contagious. Unless Cardosa managed to do that off screen, and that was the report he was putting down. You never know. Yeah. But I'm suspecting she's got that earlier version of it where it's contagious, but it's not super contagious like an airborne transmission.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think because even Shetty was saying that she needed more time to get to that position at that time.
If you put that into Herogasm setting, then all of them will get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No.
All you got to do is share some bodily fluids, and there's a lot of bodily fluids shared in Herogasm. Yeah.
Some walking into them.
True.
Yeah. I really like where they're setting Neuman up to be. And I think I kind of remembered there was kind of like a hint of, well, if she gets vice president, she's next in line, and anything can happen to her president.
Exactly.
So very much she is planning to off the president and become the most powerful person.
And we also thought it would be kind of head explosion, but we can see that now she could do it much more subtly with her powers.
Yeah. She can control any part of the blood, so it just said, you have a heart attack, there you're done. You're just dusted. I like how this sets things up. I like how this sets going into the finale. We are really seeing a potentially global virus potential that can kill Supes, millions of Supes. That has now kind of been taken, I was going to say taken off the board, but really actually put strongly into play, a potential play.
Exactly. It's definitely not off the board. It's just in a different person's hands than everybody that created it was expecting it to be. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It really does set up, as we said, heads will roll. It sets up where we're going to be, because is Marie going to side with Neuman? Is she going to do as she's told? Is she going to stay at Godolkin? And are we also going to see then this other fracture of this group of kind of Supe Lives Matter? So, are you going to start seeing this fractured two team going into next year's at Godolkin? Or are we leaving Godolkin? Yeah. Is Gen V now going to be very much them versus the world? This new version of the boys, the young ones, if you will, going off against the wider power that be. There's still a load of people down in the woods.
Yeah.
They have to kind of free those people.
Yeah. Because that was the last mission that Shetty had left for Cate, was to kill everybody in the woods, right? That's the one she didn't do, effectively, was that she was supposed to get down there and kill everybody in the woods. And that would be the last mission, and then they'd ride off into the sunset together. But she refused to do it. So yeah, you're right. There's a lot of people to free down in the woods.
Yeah. But that's why I felt maybe the virus is ready for airborne transmission.
Maybe. Yeah, you could be right. You could be right. But did you notice there was a little backdoor that was mentioned in there by Dr. Cardosa, as he's handing it over to Senator Neuman? He says, it's okay right now. Doesn't have a lot of longevity. It needs to get into the fridge pretty quick. Needs to get into the freezer pretty quick. So, I guess somebody can steal it, sit it out in the sun, and eventually it'll die off, right?
Yeah.
So that's good. At least there is a way of disabling this virus that could kill every single Supe on the planet. So I guess if you want to get away from the virus, you fly to the other side of the world and you're not at the epicenter, right? So they could still use it and it may not get everybody. So that's really interesting. I do also like in that moment, just before the explosion, right at the end of the episode, that Senator Neuman tells Dr. Cardosa that he's a true American hero for what he's done, when actually he's handed it over to possibly the worst person to have this, because she's going to use it for her power.
Yeah, I love that she gives him a blank card as well.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah. And then just a drop of blood.
Yeah, excellent stuff.
Really good, really good. She's pretty evil.
Yeah. I really would love if they end next episode with some of the virus being escaping, be it through people when they're freeing people in the woods, and someone gets it and someone sneezes on someone else, and that's it, or with the heads rolling, the exploder herself, Neuman, releasing something. Now again, she has to be careful. It will affect her. That's the thing. Yeah. I was just like, It's not like she's gonna kind of like do an evil genius kind of thing where she sets a bomb and just watches everyone die because she's human and will be fine. No, she's as potentially getting affected with this as anyone else. Yeah. So it will be very interesting to see. Or is that her plan? Like, is it kind of she's gonna now go get this kind of, is there a cure or a vaccine for this virus that she has to get made up first, and then she kind of does it that way? Are we going to see the COVID-19 version of this going into the boys' universe where everyone's locked down?
Well, all I can say is I'm really glad that we have an announcement that we have another season of Gen V and another season of The Boys that may answer some of these questions, so they don't all have to be answered in one episode next week. But there is lots of stuff that I'm really excited about coming up next week on the final episode.
Yeah, good stuff. Any notes, anyone?
I just had one little question. Did I miss something? When did Jordan Lee become Dean Shetty's TA? Is that just automatically transferred when the person he was actually TA for was murdered?
Yeah, I think so.
Because it was like, he just said to Marie, remember, I'm Shetty's TA. And I was going, I don't remember that. Do I remember that? Do I remember a moment when he said he was her TA?
I don't remember it, but I guess, it just transferred with Brinkerhoff.
I guess so. I just don't remember it. I don't remember there being a moment when Jordan had mentioned that before. So when he said, remember, I'm her TA, I was going, I don't remember that. But there's lots been going on in this season, so maybe I just missed it.
Yeah, I don't remember it either, to be honest.
I just assumed they were a kind of SWAT and was a TA for everyone. Yeah. Kind of like multiple professors, I am your TA. Yeah.
Well, it was just the way we learned last week that the only reason Jordan Lee was TA for Brinks is because she witnessed him almost getting murdered before by his prodigy. So they were offered the role as TA to kind of cover that up, right? So does that happen often, that they've witnessed something else that the dean possibly had done? So they were offered the position of TA for them? I don't know. I just thought it was odd. Yeah. Anyway, it's only a minor thing. I just thought it was odd, especially the way it was phrased as, don't you remember? Because I was going, I don't remember. Anyway, anything else about the episode? Anything else that we haven't talked about?
Nothing from me.
Nothing from me. So that can only lead us to one thing, gentlemen. Yes, we must wrap up our discussions. So I will ask this question. Derek, do you defend Gen V Season 1, Episode 7, Sick?
This season has been absolutely fantastic. I was talking to one of our listeners the other day who was just sending me a message on Facebook Messenger saying this show is better than The Boys. They love it. Absolutely love it. So, and I was kind of thinking about it. I was going, is it better than The Boys? You know, because The Boys has source material and they're trying to get from point A to point B, and Gen V is set in this universe, but with brand new characters and a brand new story to tell. I think they have really nailed it in this show.
Yeah.
I think every episode has been something different and something that's really expanded on. And the performances have been really good and the writing's been really good, apart from that one crappy scene in this episode, which I wish they just excised. I wish there was some other way that they could have had that exposition about what the virus is getting across to them. As you said, John, Dr. Cardosa left a document on the table that they could have read after he walks out of the room, because he clearly does. It's right there. What's this about the virus document that he's just left here? Yeah. Grand. But I thought it was really badly written. But that's only one scene of a very, very good episode with lots of explosive moments and lots of exploding heads. So really enjoyed it. And, you know, there's one thing about this show that's so different from other crossover shows or spin-off shows. You know, there's just that token crossover character that comes in sometimes when you have a spin-off show like Frasier from Cheers, that kind of stuff in the past, or all the CW shows. Here it's so well written. It doesn't feel like a spin-off. It feels like it's intertwined in the universe. The people that are here matter. They're important for being here. They're important to continue the story of the universe. They're not just here to go, hey, do you remember me from that other show you watched?
Yes.
It really is important.
CW, it ain't.
It is not. It is not. So really enjoyed this excellent episode, and really looking forward to the finale of the show. Chris, for the first time this season, what's your thoughts on Gen V and this episode specifically?
I absolutely love Gen V. I've been glued to this show, much like most of us and most of our listeners. This is absolutely fantastic. I like the different take of the universe. Again, we've seen a lot of these CW young generations Euphoria style, where it's kind of like drugs, sex, alcohol, and a social setting, and shake and see what happens.
Wow, I think the people at HBO would like a word with you about the comparison there to CW shows and Euphoria.
Yeah, it's just it's different flavor of CW.
Yes, I'd like to see the characters from Euphoria take on the characters from Riverdale and crossover.
That would be hilarious.
Archie, that's what we're going to put. We're going to put Archie versus Gen V. That's how this.
He did fight a bear in that show.
Did they? What?
Archie fought a bear in Riverdale. Yeah,
but that's okay. I hadn't watched that.
Look, everything has happened in Riverdale. You can't even imagine how far it went. So I've just taken you off track there. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, and don't even mention Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Oh, well, that takes my next joke out of play.
Well, that's where the actor who plays Andre came from, and Marie. They both came from Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
The updated version.
The CW show, yeah.
I'm talking about the classic.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, okay, the classic, that's fine. That's the good. Especially when you had Salem with the talking animatronic.
Exactly.
Anyway, bringing it back on topic to Gen V, I absolutely love this show. I love this, how they paced each kind of episode, and I love how they paced this one. Because it does leave me questioning a lot of what's going to happen in the finale. I know we got that fantastic news last week of season 2, and I think that, if anything, makes me more hungry for next week, because I'm like, where are you going to leave this? How are you going to leave on such a high that Amazon have already gone, do you know what? We're giving you season 2. We don't even need to wait to see the end of where you get to. This has been spectacular. The viewership's there. The audience is there. The script is there. The stars are there. Let's do this. So yeah, I'm just enthralled with where we're going to see next week. And it's just fun. I think Prime are hitting it out of the park with Wheel of Time, The Boys, Gen V. I'll mention The Rings of Power because I know you guys love it too. And that's it. I think they're bringing these great shows together. And I think it's just fantastic.
We also podcast about all of those shows here on TV Podcast Industry. So yeah, Rings of Power is fantastic. So really looking forward to the second season of that, as well as The Wheel of Time and Gen V and The Boys. So yes, absolutely.
It's almost like I planned it. But that's what my thoughts. Johners, do you defend this episode of Gen V? Sick.
I really do love this episode. I'd give it 4.5 fine amber whiskies and a park tiger out of 5.
Nice.
Yes. We didn't mention the fact that we have sort of a Blackadder moment by Dr. Cardosa filling up Shetty's whiskey decanter with his urine.
Let's hope she doesn't stop off there on her way home.
Well, exactly. That might be why she was a little taken aback with Cate and didn't perform to her best. But
or how often has he done that? Was this the first time ever, or has he done it? No, he took a drink out of himself, so probably
but we
was
do
the first
know,
time ever.
you know, in some of our other podcasts, when, for example, Jessica Jones, we did have Whiskey Watch, so it would have been a belter to have sort of a whiskey urine sort of blend, I guess, going on this time.
Dr. Cardosa special, I guess.
Yeah, I thought this was really, really good. I like how it built, around this virus and Kate's, I guess, manipulation by Shetty. And I actually thought Cate and Shetty in this episode were superb. I think in terms of the actors, Maddie Phillips and Shelley Conn, I really, really enjoyed them in this. And it's a real shame if Shelley Conn has been killed off, because I just loved her, just her whole swagger in this season. But I think the rightful heir has also been part of this with Senator Neuman. I loved, again, another manipulative figure in a very different way. Absolutely. And I really, really enjoyed her conversation with Marie.
Yeah. The parallel between those two as well, with her kind of taking Marie along as her protege as Cate is pushing away her mentor,
exactly.
Killing her, effectively.
It was just really, really well done. I really enjoyed kind of Sam's little moment here as well, and him, in a sense, wanting to sort of just release himself from that imprisonment and at the hands of humans. So, you know, it is soaking up this radical agenda, either consciously or subconsciously through the influence of Rufus, maybe, or just that debate. You know, another important element. Great getting Mallory in there because, you know, that idea that, as you say, they're connecting in with the boys. I really cannot wait for next week's episode, because with that final scene with the death of Shetty, it looks really explosive for this group, given you have three of them around the dying body, or the dead body of Shetty, whereas you kind of have Cate and Sam almost slightly aloof, and on the sidelines, Andre. Yeah. So you don't quite know where he might be. So really intrigued to see how the final episode plays out here. So yes, 4 fine amber whiskies and a park tiger out of 5.
One quick thing that I just realised as you went through your wrap up there of the episode. So Dean Shetty's dead, Brinkerhoff's dead, Polaris, who's the only other member of faculty that I'm aware of, is in hospital. Where are the rest of the faculty at this school?
In the arts department. Is there, you know how good
is
an
there
arts
anybody
degree
else?
is.
But that's only one college of the 5 colleges of Godolkin, right? So who are the people that are taking care of the kids and they're studying? So Marie's been told to go back to college and get the education, but there's nobody left to do it now.
Yeah, but they're not following every teacher in every class.
They're not. We just haven't seen anybody else. Is all I mean.
Because if we did, we'd have Chris complaining about the pacing.
Very
as we go from one teacher to the next. It's spent far too long on the teachers.
True.
Fair. Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
Just checking in. Anyway, I think we need to go for a pint.
Let's do it.
Yes.
Gentlemen, should we head to the Student Union for the one and only Student Union pub quiz?
Definitely. A pint followed by a Jägermeister, followed by a Jägermeister bomb, followed by a top shelf. And yes, hopefully I can get the question out with that amount of alcohol.
I drink beer.
Yes, just like Sam, we will be trying our first beers ever.
Yes, we've never had beer before.
Never.
No.
Honestly, never.
Ever.
But it is episode 7, so let me roll with question 7. What does Dean Shetty have in her cupboards that's not British tea?
She does have British tea in there as well.
She does have it, but it's not what is expected by Andre. He's quite surprised.
Yes, she probably has some biscuits in there as well. Not cookies, biscuits.
Chocolate malted milk.
Delivered directly from Britain. Yes. But do you want to give the question one more time, John?
Yes. What does Dean Shetty have in her cupboards that's not British tea?
Great stuff. That's the 7th of 8 questions. Gather together all the answers and email them to us at the end of the season 2 feedback at tvpodcastindustries.com to be in with a chance of getting your hands on some Gen V goodies.
Yes. Good luck, fellow boys and girls and fellow quizzers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And if you enjoyed this, don't forget, you can also just send us your thoughts as well by going on over to facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries, and we have a spoiler post for each and every one. Or if you like to tap on the keys on the old email, you can send us a feedback at tvpodcastindustries.com, or just pop on over to our website and all the details are there too. If you enjoyed this feedback section we're about to go into, where we have all of it,
okay,
you make sure.
Rewind.
What? Why?
Just say, let's go into some feedback.
I was having a fun.
Yeah, but if you enjoyed this section we're about to go into now,
I was going to say you could support us on Patreon.
We've done that.
We already did it.
Yeah, I know. I was hammering it home. So.
Thanks.
But then, gentlemen, let's head on into our feedback section for this episode.
Get it, got it, good.
I do love that piece. Get it, got it, good.
It's great, isn't it? First up, we got a message over on Spotify. You can follow us over there. There's a Q&A button on any episode where you can send in your thoughts directly to us while listening to the episode. Jackson sent us a message about Gen V episode 5. They say, love the episode as always, fellas. However, just one thing. You guys said Sam's puppet fight was like Sesame Street on steroids, but I think you guys might have meant Sesame Street on Compound V. Well done, Jackson.
Good stuff.
You got our humour. I love it.
Yeah, love it.
You're totally right too. Definitely not steroids. Definitely Compound V.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jackson.
Thanks, Jackson. We also have an email on this episode from the one and only Coffee and Vodka. Greetings, fellow infected defenders. As soon as you hear the words, you're the only one who knows about this, right? Run.
Absolutely.
So Marie, with her news, has given Neuman her weapon against Homelander, a nice tie-in, and we found that there's a right number of sex toys. Has Rufus influenced Sam, or has he come by this attitude via treatment in the woods? Seems strange for him, in all his innocence, to consider Supes superior to the unveed humans. With Shetty and the Doc dead and the virus contained, unless polarity among possible others is a carrier, I wonder what they plan to do with the final episodes. With no main antagonist. Drawn quarter Rufus, maybe? Could Andre have super COVID now? Who was Grace talking to on the phone? Could we be seeing Billy and Co next week? Finally, the scene with Shetty's death seems staged somehow. Could false memories have been created, and is Cate still a threat? So many questions. Between this and Loki, we really need either advanced screenings or a time machine. 5 blood sisters, graceful returns, and recycled whiskies out of 5. Happy co-birthdays. Peace and take care. Coffee and Vodka.
Thanks, Coffee and Vodka.
Yeah, excellent stuff. Thank you so much, Coffee and Vodka, for the happy birthday.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we had 2 great birthdays.
We have, and long may it continue into the weekend.
Absolutely.
Shall we say?
It's not over. They really spread out this birthday thing. Some of us get days, they get multiple weeks.
Mine was a school day, so it's like
it was on Wednesday. So.
I had to go to work on my birthday. Nightmare.
Yeah. That's the worst.
It is.
They should just make it like a holiday for everyone.
Your own personal holiday.
Oh, I was talking about your birthday. They should make your birthday a holiday for
I might be a
everyone.
queen, but I'm not that much of a queen.
Absolutely. I used to work for a company that gave us our birthdays off as annual leave every year as an additional day holiday. You just got your day off work. How cool was that?
That is very cool.
Yeah, like that. But some really good thoughts there, Coffee and Vodka. I think very similar to some of ours. We didn't mention, of course, Sam found Emma's sex toy drawer, and we saw a working version of Starlight's vibrator, the one that they sell through Vault. So the last time we saw those, they were in a case.
I was thinking we were going to see Sam using it when she's out the room.
Maybe.
I'm just glad we didn't see Black Noir's version.
Exactly.
The massive black one.
Yes, we did.
But Sam may have just put it into his ear or something like that. I don't know. Rather than up the chocolate starfish.
Much like Britney Spears, he's not that innocent, John.
Yeah, but it is good to have options at all times.
Exactly.
It is. There is the right number of sex toys.
Always. In terms of your question, Coffee and Vodka, in terms of who is the big antagonist, I think it's gonna be Sam and Cate. I think we see the split is getting people out of the woods and seeing the antagonists be formed. This is the origin story of a new group of super bads versus super goods.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah.
Absolutely. But again, like Derek had mentioned, I do like that idea. It's a false memory because, just the way that the scenes played out between Cate and Shetty, where you feel she's been turned around and then you're suddenly in on something that seems really intense for how it was left previously. The staging of it's maybe just so that they don't clock it. So that'll be interesting. And I would certainly be up for that because to have Dean Shetty around, I think would be really cool still.
Absolutely.
Even though she's a monster. And I do agree with Cate.
She is totally a monster. Yes, absolutely. Thanks so much, Coffee and Vodka. Over in our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/TV podcast industries, we did get some other feedback in there. Scott McAnoida says, I haven't watched yet, but I've got a feeling that Neuman is Marie's benefactor and that she might have a similar superpower. They haven't explained exactly what Neuman's power is, other than head exploding and pushing blood into people's heads would probably do that. Well done, Scott.
Absolutely.
Much more perceptive than I am.
Yeah, very much more perceptive than myself as well. I just thought, yeah, she explodes the head. It could be air pressure or something. And it's mainly just because of the eye rolling, because you don't see that with Marie.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
So, she's got kind of an eye rolling sort of giveaway.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, that well, it's a giveaway until she wears sunglasses.
Yes,
that's how she does her Clark Kent moment.
Yeah,
it's like sunglasses on, but she is that person then that wears sunglasses inside, and you're like, oh, you're that person. Never be that person that wears sunglasses inside, people.
Yeah, thanks so much for the feedback, Scott. David Mr. Rice says, well, the twists and turns and the curves don't stop. Get it, got it, good. Mm-hmm. So that was interesting. Basically gave us the Neuman backstory through Marie's life. 2 birds, 1 stone. It was a sweet moment between the both of them. Even now, I know Neuman is up to no good. It was nice to see Marie get some sort of connection there. Neuman is so great, and her character. She's the female version of Homelander, the way she portrays the character. So charismatic, but diabolical. Didn't see reasoning behind Dean planning a mass virus, but glad to see how they're still eating off the airplane crash. Uh-huh. This is leading up to a crazy endgame finale with a huge fight. I'm terrified to see and unleash Sam. This is probably why they used puppet scenes when Sam killed all those guards. They're saving all their blood allocations for the finale. Yes, but they lost a lot of glitter allocations in the process. David continues, I'm wondering if it's Cate that caused Polarity's seizure so it would give her a chance to deal with Dean Shetty alone. Mm. If so, she's got Professor X-level powers. Overall, very good episode that's leading up to a wild finale. Whoever did the casting for this show really nailed it out the park. All these actors have been so incredible in their portrayal. The closing score was a perfect touch. Mm-hmm. Good stuff, David. Yeah, totally agree. I think these actors have been just fantastic.
Really good.
And a nice little theory there around possibly Cate being involved in some way with Polarity's seizure, which would be really sort of a hit for Andre. I mean, even more so if that were the case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if it was her that had done it, yeah.
Oh, that'd be good.
It would actually. It would also be pretty malicious, wouldn't it, actually, from her?
Yeah, because I do see Andre as a kind of 50-50 at this moment. I honestly don't know whether he would... Is he going to join the side of Super Lives Matter? Is he going to join Cate and Sam?
Yeah.
Or is he going to stay... Like, he could flip because essentially we know they don't have their mum in the picture. So Dad potentially being, like, hurt by what could be seen as someone else, or can be pushed on as I like, no one cares about my dad. I have to. Only superheroes get superheroes. It will be a good, interesting thing. And then we know Cate cares, and that they did have this thing. And I can see him being this kind of piece where they're trying to pull people, like they're going to be pulled from both sides. He's going to be the cog in the middle of where is he going to land.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And when we learned last episode, inside Kate's mind, we've learned that she is in love with Andre. I think that's also something that will be in the back of his head. If he has to choose sides, will he go with Andre or will he go with the people that he just kind of likes and the other newer friends? So, interesting stuff.
Absolutely. And I'm totally with you around Neuman. Like, she's great. And I think, from this series of Gen V, a great successor to Dean Shetty as well.
Absolutely. Excellent stuff. Thanks, David, Mr. Writer.
Yeah, thanks, David, Mr. Writer.
Thanks, David. The last piece of feedback for this week comes from Dr. Bob Phillips, who had this to say. No, but no. They what? No. Oh my God, no. Mostly a summary of anything I could turn into words while watching. The links to the boys here are fantastic. from the flights that doomed Xena the Warrior Princess through Senator Pimple Popper and the scary spy boss, who I'm sure had Frenchie on a wire.
Yeah.
But you didn't need to know any of them. What a setup for the finale. Gore glory and season 2 ahoy. Thanks, Dr. Bobs. And I absolutely love the way that you say the flight that doomed Xena, i.e. kind of, in a way, reminding everyone that this was the flight that really took Queen Maeve off the board, or began her journey, her descent to being taken off the board.
Absolutely.
In season 3.
Absolutely. Another vote for Frenchie being on the line with the senator.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And loads of gore. And the season 2, really good stuff. I love Senator Pimple Popper as well. I might just have to use that in our closeout.
I think we might have to, yes. Excellent
so thank you, Dr. Bob, indeed, for the feedback.
Great stuff. Thanks so much for joining us. And thanks for coming back, Chris, for the 7th episode and the penultimate episode. Unfortunately, we know already you're not going to be with us for the finale of Gen V next week. Guardians of Godolkin is out next Friday, but you're not going to be able to join us for that one.
I won't, but I will be back for Prime's next biggest hit, Invincible Season 2.
Yes.
Good stuff.
The first of 4 episodes dropping next week, and then we're continuing weekly.
Yes.
It's going to be fantastic. If you haven't watched it yet, make sure you go check out all of Season 1 on Prime right now. It is animated goodness and gory and superhero and amazing.
Yeah.
Just do it.
I think if you like The Boys or Gen V, you're going to like that. If you haven't seen Invincible yet, it's definitely a crossover, and I've heard some people say that Invincible is even better than The Boys for them. So yes,
and that
stuff.
was me saying that, by the way.
I do love Invincible, and it's just myself and Chris on that one. Looking forward to that. We will, of course, be continuing our coverage of Loki. We're on to episode 4 later this week. Myself and John on that one, and only a couple more episodes left of Loki before we go back to the cinema for The Marvels, the next movie in the MCU, which I'm really excited about too.
Yes, a new beginning.
Yes.
The Marvels.
And if you're doing a Marvel rewatch, make sure you watch Captain Marvel and Miss Marvel over on Disney Plus.
Absolutely, and WandaVision, and maybe even Secret Invasion, because Nick Fury's going to be in there too. So watch all those, and all covered here on TV Podcast Industries, as we cover so much stuff on our podcast. So, but lots of stuff still to come later in the year as well. Great stuff. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again next time.
Thanks so much, and I'll speak to you all again for the first episode of Season 2 of Invincible.
Excellent stuff. Yes, thank you, fellow boys, and of course, Quizzes, for joining us for this episode 7 of Gen V. A pleasure discussing all things bloody and nasty with you, of course. But until next time, keep watching, keep listening, and thank you, Dr. Bob. Keep popping pimples.
Bye.
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 Bye.